Hello, beautiful boy. After all that, I understand everything. Everything makes so much more sense now. Why they called in a young male leopard, why they thought it was Hosanna. Of course, Tumba's been wandering around this area, and there he is, waiting patiently. He responded to his mom's calls. Oh, he's so gorgeous. He is such a beautiful leopard. He responded to his mom's calls, but she'd already left. And now he's sitting looking longingly off in the distance, off to where she walked. Earlier on, I was busy looking down at the tracks on the ground, going, there's Tundi's tracks, there's a male's tracks. And he walked on top of, he obviously smelt her where she'd walked, and he followed her tracks. And then he got to here where she was calling, which is exactly where we were with Tundi when we first started. And now he just looks sad, because Mom's gone, and now he just has to wait some more. The cub with the big ears and the big paws, although he's grown into them considerably since I first made that observation. I love his eyes, though. He really does have the most stunning eyes. Little thing, where's your mum? So, this must have been the most confusing leopard sighting for any of our new viewers. This must have been utterly bizarre, because first we were talking about Hosanna, then Tundi. Let's just keep it simple. The leopard you saw earlier was Tundi. This is her cub. He was born in late July or early August last year. And he is, I think about July last year actually. And he's gorgeous. His name is Tumba. If you just wait. Perfect. I'll move forward for you a little bit. No problem. What's there? He's looking not at us and not at the other vehicle, but in the distance, and I think he's looking for Mum. I'm just going to shift forward ever so slightly, Ferg. Oh, poor battered vehicle. Shame, Rusty. I really put you through hell today. There we go. First time I ever saw this leopard was when he was racing away from that baboon troop that attacked him and his sibling. And unfortunately his sibling, not in that baboon attack, but his sibling didn't make it. He or she, I think it was a she actually, was killed by the sticks a couple of months ago, which is what happens with lions and leopard cubs. There's a certain inevitability to that. Oh, he's gorgeous. And Rebecca, good morning. You want to know if he is in the tree for protection until Tundi comes back? Could be. It could be that he feels safer up there. He could also be up the tree because it gives him a nice high vantage point so he can see his mum if she comes. And it might also just be a really comfortable spot where he can sleep safely. I've seen, if I'm completely honest, I've seen more leopards sleeping on the ground than I have seen leopards sleeping in trees, if I had to count up all my sightings. But especially on a warm morning, it's the perfect place to be. There's a bit of shade, there's a bit more of a breeze than there is on the ground. So it could be that he feels safer up there. It could just be that that's where he wanted to be while he waits for Mum. I love those feet. I'm sure many of you out there have had dogs from puppies, and you know what their paws are like. Tumba's paws have always been like that, absolutely massive. Satya Jid, I hope I got your name right. You want to know what Thamba means? It basically means boulder or rock. It's one of the names that was put forward by the Chitwa guides, that because of course Thamba was denned under one of the lodge rooms. So it was very much within their rights to name him. And they put forward 3 suggestions. One was Thamba. I cannot remember the other 2 now. Thamba, there was one that meant sorrow or solitude or something like that. And we're not even going to think about Bigglesworth. Either way, Thamba was what was chosen for him, and I think it's a very appropriate name. And I actually think he's going to be huge, you know. I really do. I think he's going to be as big as his uncle, Hosanna, which is a strange sentence to say. It does get very confusing with leopard families, because Tumba's father is most likely also Hosana's father. Tundi is Hosana's older sister, making Hosana Tumba's uncle, but it would also make him his half-brother, because they share the same father. Oh, it gets confusing. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? Because we're not even going to go into the connection between Tundi, Karula, and Tundi and Shadow's father. It gets very confusing. Let's just look at the beautiful leopard, and he is beautiful. Alright, we've had a truly special morning. Tristan has had some luck as well from his side, and found you something large and grey. I am, and he really is gorgeous. Especially when he is beautifully illuminated like this, and those green eyes of his searching for mum. Look at those ears. You haven't fully grown into them yet, have you? Oh, he's very beautiful. Is that your mum coming back? He's seen something. I think Tundi's coming back to him. We'll see. We'll sit patiently and wait. He's seen something. Now, Mock CK, you want to know how do you then go about counting spot patterns with the 2, 4 and so on. Look at his whisker line, all right, and start on the left-hand side on your screen, which is the right-hand side of his face. And you see those two spots sticking out of the top there, above the sort of the last line of the whiskers. I actually kind of need to do this on a picture. It's much easier to explain, but there's 2 little dots there. And then if he turns his face for us, you'll be able to count the ones on the other side. So it goes from right to left, and you count the number of spots on the top on the right, and then you count the number of spots on the top on the left. He's definitely seen something. And from there, you get whether he would be a 2-4 or a 4-4 or a whatever else he happens to be. I actually don't know what Tumba is. I've never looked. I must actually look properly. Now, of course, he's turned his head because I wanted to have a look at him. I think, okay, I thought he was a 2-4. So he's a 2-4 leopard. He's got 2 spots on the right and 4 spots on the left at the top of his whisker spots. I don't like, personally, I shouldn't actually tell you this because it's the proper way of doing things. It's the way everybody does things. I personally don't like using that method, because sometimes you get the tiniest of little spots that people then say, oh, does that count, does it not? It just confuses people. Oh, big yawn, I'm sorry I'm boring you. I prefer just looking at identifiable markings on their faces or around their eyes or on their chests. But when situations get confusing, like the one that we have now with Tundi moving in, I guess it makes sense. Raven, you want to know how much he can eat in a day? Well, he'll eat roughly every 3 or so days. He probably weighs about... he's quite a hefty boy at this point. I would say 35, maybe even more, actually. He might weigh more than his mum. And I would guess his mum weighs about 40 kilograms. So if he really had to stuff himself, I think he could easily eat around about... 2 or 3 kilograms of meat in one sitting, possibly even more if he's feeling really hungry. And bear in mind, it's not just one sitting. When predators are feeding off a kill, they will eat and eat and eat. As soon as they've even vaguely got a little bit of space in their bellies, they'll fill it with more food. Because you never know when that meal might disappear. Mobile paddy? No, I don't think the ratio of male to female leopards is of a concern in this particular area. So we do have quite a high number of males. At least we've got quite a few young males. So let's say within Tingana's territory, okay, let's say within our traverse area, we've got the three big males, Anderson, Tingana, Quarantine. We've got Hosanna and we've got Tumba. And that's actually pretty, okay, Mvula, Djuma. So we've got 7 males. 2 of them are coming of age and will disperse away from this area almost completely. And Tingana and Mvula are both not young leopards. They're not ancient, but they're not young either. So at some point in the next few years, they'll reach the end of their reign. Then you've got Shadow, Tandi, Shungile, Salheshe, Tiani, Inkanyeni. Who am I missing? Am I missing someone? Shaluva's no longer, but the younger Shaluva is still around. That's 7. No, I don't think it's too much of a concern. The ratio will sort itself out. It'll balance itself out. Sorry, my brain just switched off completely there for a second. No, I don't think it's too much of a bother. Look, it's certainly the case that Tingana doesn't have that many females in his territory that he can mate with at the moment. They've all got cubs. Shadow's got her cub. Tandi, Karula did when she was around here, wherever she may be now. I don't think it's too much of a concern. And leopards, when there's pressure, they'll disperse, even females. Females don't have to stay near their mothers. Shinvinzi didn't. Hey, he's up. He's looking really big. He's looking really, really big. He's looking almost as big as Hosanna. They seem to go through growth spurts at different times, these leopards. Hosanna went through a growth spurt very early. Tumba seems to be going through his now. And, well, little Vutomi, I left him off the list. He's still got a way to go. He's tiny still, and he's the eldest of the 3. Such a cautious walk. Why would you do that? Why would you give up your comfy spot for going all the way up there? Oh, it's shadier, I suppose. Or maybe he just wanted to be higher to see further. Yeah, sorry, I can't believe I left Vutomi off the list of young males, but all 3 of them are going to disperse. Big yawn. Sorry? He's about 9 months old. Born July last year. I don't know which month of the year we're in. He must be older than that. He must be 10 months old now. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Are we in May? Yeah, he's 10 months old now. Sure, that's terrifying. No wonder he looks so massive. Roshni, we're about 10 meters from the base of the tree that he's in, but he's now climbed closer to us and he's above us and it's sort of at an angle. He's about 10 meters away and 7 meters up. Fergus, do you have a focal distance on that camera?
No, I just have a zoom distance.
You just have a zoom distance. Okay. So we can't work out exactly. He's not far away from us. It's not the closest we've ever been. I find generally with Tandi and Tumba, both of them need a little bit of extra space, as opposed to Hosanna and Shungile that are so comfortable with us that they'll come and lie right next to us. You're going to do yourself a mischief, mister. Now you saw how carefully he stepped along this branch, and Francis, watching in Israel, they do fall out of trees. Not often. Especially young leopards will lose their footing, especially young male leopards, because they go through that growth spurt, and like big dogs or big teenagers, they get a little bit clumsy when their limbs have grown faster than their brain can quite comprehend. They do occasionally fall out. For adults, the reason that they fall out most is when they're trying to get a kill into a tree, when they're trying to lift it up, and that's when they have the greatest chance of falling. But like all cats, that magical, mystical ability to twist around and land with their flexible spines, they can twist in midair and land on their feet. I mean, there was that incredible footage of Anderson falling out of a tree, and he fell far. Anderson is one of the big dominant male leopards that we ever so occasionally see. That's not a good view, mister. We much preferred the earlier one. Now he's looking south. I wish I knew the answer to where Tundi... I know where Tundi is. Well, I know roughly where she is. Where Hosanna and Shongile were. Using that thick tail as a balancing method. Are you going to try and lie down here, or are you going to come back down? Violet, yes. Leopards do deal with hairballs in the same way domestic cats do. They do cough up hairballs. A lot of the time they will obviously spit it out as they're licking or cleaning themselves, or they're licking the carcass, but they do consume a lot of hair, and that does result in the odd hairball being brought up. We don't find them as much as we would expect to, and a lot of that fur passes through them and is defecated out. But that they're very similar to domestic cats in the way that they'll deal with it. They'll also, if they've got an upset stomach, they'll go and feed on grass. All right, little Tumba has decided to have a nap. James, of course, does not have that luxury, and he continues to stride along. He's having a fat nap indeed. Tristan, you are spot on. He's enjoying the shade and keeping us in this baking hot sun. It's amazing how the temperatures spike up at this time of year, from very, very chilly in the mornings to really very warm by about 9:30. And I suspect this is what Tumba's going to do, unless Mum comes back with news of a kill or news of breakfast. I suspect this is where Tumba's going to be over the next few hours. I hope that's going to be the case. So hopefully for the sunset safari this afternoon, we'll be able to come and join him. Little one, Naira, you want to know if he's the average size for a 10-month-old leopard. I'm going to go and say he's slightly larger than average for a 10-month-old leopard, male leopard. Obviously the females are invariably smaller. But it's difficult to say. I mean, Vutomi was much, much, much tinier than him, but Hosanna is Hosanna's about the same size now, to be completely honest with you. So I would say he is quite big, but it's difficult. I don't know exactly what the average would be for this area. And it's also, I mean, Karula produces big male leopards as sons. So has Tundi. So I would guess and say he's a little bit larger than average, but each leopard grows at their own different rate. And I'm not sure anybody's actually managed to plot one of those, you know, those growth charts that you have with children? I don't think anybody's actually managed to do that with leopards, where you can see if it's average or above average or below average. Either way, These live safaris give us an unprecedented insight into their lives. Short of being a guide out here, this is the best way to follow these wonderful creatures. And we've had a truly marvellous morning. Fergus, we didn't get you your wild dogs, but we did have 2 leopards and a hyena. I don't think we're going to be complaining about that at all. And on that note, it is the end of the sunrise safari. As I said, I really hope he sticks around for this afternoon sunset safari, especially because then we can show him to the kids that join us every afternoon for their school drive. It's always wonderful to show them something as special as a leopard, and I think it's a nice surprise for them.